I didn't expect her to open the door in silence. No hi, no fake smile, just her eyes, half tired, half curious, like she'd already made up her mind about me and didn't care to hide it. "Eli, right?" she asked. Her voice carried the kind of calm that comes from age, or maybe from knowing you can end a conversation anytime you want. "Yeah," I said, shifting the backpack on my shoulder. "You're Mrs. Rowan." She hesitated, a pause that felt deliberate. "Just. Claire is fine." That's how it started. A one-bedroom apartment above her garage, 2 months overdue on rent, and me trying to piece my life together after dropping out of school. She was maybe mid-40s, still wearing her hair like she forgot she used to be beautiful. Or maybe she hadn't forgotten, maybe she just didn't care who noticed anymore. The apartment smelled faintly like coffee and paint thinner. The walls were half done, as if she'd started to renovate and lost the motivation midway. I walked in, pretending not to look at the thin line of light beneath her robe when she turned toward the kitchen. "You said on the phone you're behind on rent?" she asked, pouring herself coffee. Not offering me any. "Yeah," I admitted. "I'm working part-time now. I can catch up," she cut me off with a small motion of her hand. "Let's not make promises. I've had enough of those." Her words landed harder than they should have. She wasn't angry, just tired. Like someone who'd run out of people to believe. There was a long pause. The sound of the coffee machine filling the air, slow and uneven. I found myself watching the way she leaned against the counter, how her fingers traced the edge of her mug. It wasn't flirtation. It was something quieter. Sadder. "I can clean up around the place," I offered. "Fix stuff. I used to do maintenance work for my uncle." Her mouth curved slightly, not quite a smile. "That's one way to pay rent." She said it like a joke, but something about her tone made me uncertain. Then she added, almost absently, "I suppose we could negotiate." I laughed softly, unsure. Negotiate? Her eyes flicked up to mine. "You're young, Eli. Don't make that sound like a bad word." The room went quiet again. Too quiet. Even the clock on the wall seemed to slow down. For a moment, we just stood there, her with her mug, me with my hands stuffed into my jacket pockets, trying not to notice the faint smell of her perfume. It wasn't what people think, not a sudden spark, not some forbidden thing. It was more like recognition. Like we'd both been pretending not to need anyone for too long. "Anyway," she said finally, setting the mug down. "We'll figure something out. You can move in today if you want." "Today?" She nodded. "The room's ready. Sheets are clean. I'll show you around." When she brushed past me to lead the way, her shoulder grazed mine. Just a second, maybe less. But the air shifted. That's when I noticed her breathing, slower, careful, as if she'd felt it too. I followed her up the narrow stairs, the wooden steps creaking beneath us. The small apartment opened to a single window facing her garden. It smelled of rain from earlier, damp and fresh. She turned toward me, eyes soft but unreadable. "You'll manage," she said. "I think you will." I nodded, though my throat felt dry. "Thanks, Claire." She started to say something, then stopped. The silence stretched, not uncomfortable, but heavy. Then, from downstairs, the doorbell rang. She looked toward the sound, her expression tightening for the first time. "Don't move," she whispered. And before I could ask who it was, she was already halfway down the stairs. The echo of her footsteps lingered, and for some reason, I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever waited on the other side of that door was about to change everything. The next morning, I heard her humming downstairs. Not a song I recognized, something soft, almost absent-minded. I stood at the top of the stairs for a few seconds, listening. The way her voice carried through the old walls made the space feel smaller, warmer. I hadn't meant to stay up late, but the night before, after whoever had come to the door left, she hadn't said a word. Just told me it was handled and disappeared into her house. I didn't sleep much. When I finally came down, she was sitting at the kitchen table, reading glasses perched low, a mug steaming beside her. The robe was gone, now she wore jeans and a loose sweater that looked too big for her, like she'd borrowed it from someone who hadn't been around in a long time. "You're an early riser," she said without looking up. "Couldn't sleep." "New places do that." She turned a page. "Or new people." I didn't answer. Instead, I noticed a picture frame tilted against the counter, a man and a young woman standing beside Claire, maybe years ago. The girl looked a few years older than me. "That your daughter?" I asked. She followed my eyes to the photo. For a second, the air went still. "Was," she said. Then she added, softer, "is. She's in Europe now. Studying. She looks happy. She should be." A pause. Her father made sure of that. There was no bitterness in her tone, just a finality, like she'd run out of energy to care about the past. I sat across from her, the chair creaking slightly. "And you? You happy?" Her lips twitched into a half-smile. "That's a dangerous question for a landlady." "Then answer as Claire." That made her look up. Her eyes held mine for longer than they should have. "No one calls me that without a reason," she said quietly. I wanted to tell her I didn't know why I cared, that I'd only been here a day and already her sadness felt like something I shouldn't touch but couldn't ignore. Instead, I just shrugged. "Guess I'm bad at boundaries." That got a laugh out of her. "Short, real. You and me both." She closed the book, exhaled. "You remind me of someone," she said finally. "My daughter's friend, from years ago. He used to hang around here, pretending to help with the garden just to avoid going home. Sweet boy. Trouble always found him." "Let me guess," I said. "You fixed him?" She smiled at that, not amused, not offended. "No. You can't fix people. You just stand close enough so they remember they're not invisible." Something in my chest tightened. The way she said invisible felt too specific. Before I could reply, she reached across the table to take her mug, and her fingers brushed mine. It wasn't deliberate, or maybe it was, but neither of us moved. The clock ticked. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. Her thumb grazed the back of my hand before she pulled away. "Careful," she murmured. "You'll start to think I'm being kind." "I already do," I said. That stopped her. For the first time since I'd met her, she didn't have a comeback. Instead, she stood, carried her mug to the sink, and looked out the window, her reflection caught in the glass, quiet, uncertain. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer. "If you're going to stay here, Eli, you should probably know I'm not someone you should get close to." I wanted to ask why, but I didn't. Because I already knew that line was a door she'd left slightly open. And part of me, the reckless part, was already reaching for the handle, the next few days blurred into routine, or something pretending to be. I fixed the loose steps, replaced a leaky faucet, swept the porch. She paid me in coffee and half-smiles. But under every small exchange, something pressed at the edges. Unspoken. Waiting. It happened one late afternoon, when the sky hung low and gray, the air thick before rain. I was in the garage, sorting through old tools, when I heard her on the phone. Her voice was low, sharp, almost angry. No, Mark, you don't get to just show up after months. A pause. I said no. She's not here. She doesn't want to talk to you. Then silence. The click of the call ending. I froze mid-step. I shouldn't have listened, but curiosity pulled harder than manners. When she came out to the doorway, I pretended to be busy hammering something that didn't need fixing. She noticed anyway. You heard. I wiped my hands on my jeans. Didn't mean to. Her jaw tightened. My ex-husband. He's visiting. Supposedly. That the guy in the photo? Her expression softened just a fraction. Yeah. Him. The one who knew how to leave. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. She stepped closer, her arms crossed, but not in defense, more like she was holding herself together. You shouldn't get dragged into this mess. Too late, I said, quieter than I meant. Her eyes lifted, and for a heartbeat, neither of us looked away. The rain started, soft against the tin roof, and she didn't move. Eli, she said, but stopped. The way she said my name made the rest unnecessary. I took one step closer. She didn't back away. I could smell the rain in her hair, the faint trace of her perfume, the same one from that first day. She exhaled slowly, like she was fighting herself. Then she reached up, fingertips grazing my collarbone, hesitant. You shouldn't. I know. We were close enough that I could feel her breath. The moment stretched, trembling. She started to say something else, maybe to stop it, when a car door slammed outside. She stepped back instantly, eyes wide. A man's voice called from the driveway. Claire. Her ex. Her whole posture changed, back straight, face blank. She whispered, "Go upstairs. Now." I wanted to argue, but the look she gave me froze me where I stood. I slipped up the side stairs, heartbeat pounding, and peeked through the cracked window. A tall man stood by her porch, holding an umbrella, confident in that way people get when they still think they matter. Their voices carried through the rain, muffled words, gestures, the rhythm of old arguments. I watched her arms fold, then drop, then fold again. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. Then she glanced toward the upstairs window, toward me. For half a second, her eyes met mine through the glass. No fear, no surprise. Just that quiet recognition again, the same one from the day we met. And even though she turned back toward him, something in that look told me everything. She didn't want him here. But she also didn't want me to leave. The rain grew heavier, pounding against the roof. I backed away from the window, breathing hard, every nerve in me buzzing. Downstairs, the front door closed. Voices faded. Then her footsteps, slow, coming up the stairs. I didn't know if she was coming to explain, to apologize, or to end it. But when the doorknob turned, I realized I didn't care. When she opened the door, she didn't step inside right away. She just stood there, damp hair sticking to her temples, rain dripping from her coat. Her breathing was uneven, not from climbing the stairs, but from whatever had just happened downstairs. Is he gone? I asked. She nodded. For now. Then, after a pause, he wanted to see our daughter. I told him she's not coming home. I waited, expecting her to say more. She didn't. She just leaned against the doorframe, looking at the floor like she was trying to make sense of something that refused to be simple. You okay? I asked. Her eyes flicked up, tired, red-rimmed. You shouldn't have been watching. I didn't mean to. Yes, you did. That stung. But she was right. I had watched. I'd wanted to. Something about the way he looked at her, like she was property he'd misplaced, had twisted something inside me I didn't recognize. "I didn't like the way he talked to you," I said finally. Her lips parted, as if to argue, then closed again. She stepped closer. "That's not your problem, Eli." "Maybe it is." She let out a shaky laugh. "You think you're my protector now?" "No. I hesitated. "I just hate seeing you pretend you don't deserve more." That made her freeze. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she crossed the room, slow and deliberate, until she was right in front of me. "Do you even know what you're saying?" she asked softly. I nodded. "Yeah. I do." Her eyes searched mine like she wanted to find an exit in them. "You're young. You still think wanting someone fixes something." I swallowed. "It doesn't. But it means something." The silence between us pulsed, too close, too charged. She reached up, brushing a stray raindrop from her sleeve, but her hand lingered in the air, inches from me. "I can't," she whispered. "You don't understand what happens if I do." "Then tell me." Her voice cracked on the edge of a laugh. "You'd start to see me the way he did. Temporary. Something to escape from once the real world calls again." "I wouldn't," I said. "You will." She turned away, pacing now, running her fingers through her hair. "You remind me of every version of myself I never got to be. You make me feel," she cut herself off, "like there's still time. And that's cruel, Eli. That's cruel of you." I took a step closer. "Then stop me." She spun, eyes bright with anger, or maybe fear. "Don't do that. Don't make me the reason you ruin yourself." The room felt smaller, air thick with everything we weren't supposed to say. Her hand trembled as she tried to push past me, but I caught her wrist, not hard, just enough to stop her. For a second, everything stopped moving. The rain outside, the ticking clock, even the breath between us. She looked down at my hand, then up at me, eyes wide and searching. "Eli," she said, barely a whisper. The sound of her name on my tongue was a heartbeat away. And then, a knock at the door. Sharp. Urgent. She froze. I let go. We stared at each other, both breathing hard, the air still electric between us. Neither of us moved toward the door. But whoever was on the other side knocked again, louder this time. The knock didn't stop. 3 short, sharp bursts that made the air vibrate. Claire's breath hitched. She pressed her palms against her temples, whispering, "No, not now." I tried to read her face, fear. Guilt. Something worse. Before I could ask, she turned toward me, voice low but urgent. "Stay here. Don't say a word." She slipped out and closed the door behind her. I stood there, listening, every muscle tense, every sound amplified. The floorboards creaked. Then I heard a man's voice, but not the one from before. Younger. Confused. "Mom." I froze. A voice I didn't expect. I moved toward the door, slow, careful. It was half open, just enough to see her standing in the living room, her back straight, her expression caught somewhere between panic and composure. A man, early 20s, dark jacket still wet from the rain, stood across from her. Her son. No, not her son. I realized too late, it was the boy from the photo. The friend her daughter used to bring around. The one who used to help with the garden. "Daniel," she said quietly. "You shouldn't be here." He glanced around, eyes flicking toward the staircase, toward me. I could say the same. "What's he doing here?" She stiffened. "He's renting the apartment." He snorted. At midnight? The silence that followed said too much. I could feel the blood draining from my face. My hand tightened on the doorframe. Daniel, this isn't what it looks like, she said, but her voice betrayed her, too fast, too defensive. Then what is it? He shot back. Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like what it looks like. He stepped closer to her, anger mixing with disbelief. You said you were done doing this. Doing what? She demanded, though her voice trembled. Taking in lost boys who think you're saving them. Her face broke, a small, involuntary flinch that told me he wasn't lying. I didn't know where to stand, or what to feel. The image of her, calm, wise, lonely, fractured into something messier, human, and painfully real. I stepped out then. Couldn't hide anymore. Claire, what's he talking about? Her eyes snapped to me. Eli, don't, but Daniel cut in. She does this, man. Finds guys like you. Fixes them, feeds them, makes them believe they're special. Then she gets bored. Or scared. Or guilty. Daniel, that's enough, she snapped. He didn't stop. You think you're different? You're not. You're just next. The words hit harder than they should have. Claire turned away, covering her mouth like she could hold in whatever wanted to come out, a sob, a confession, both. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said finally. Not with you. Not again. Her voice cracked, small and raw. Daniel looked between us, disgust and pity tangled in his face. You don't learn, do you? He turned, stormed out, doors slamming behind him. The silence after was brutal. She didn't look at me, just stared at the floor, shaking slightly. He wasn't wrong, she whispered. I wanted to feel seen. That's all. I didn't think I'd start needing you. Something in my chest twisted, love, anger, confusion all fighting at once. Then what am I supposed to do with that? I asked. She finally looked at me, eyes wet, voice barely a breath. Walk away before you become another mistake I can't forgive myself for. But she didn't move. Neither did I. And in the silence between us, it was already too late to pretend any of it could still be undone. Rain still hammered the windows, steady and relentless, like the sky refused to move on until we did. Claire stood by the counter, her hand trembling slightly as she poured herself a drink. She didn't offer me one. Didn't even look at me. The silence was unbearable. Say something, I said finally. What do you want me to say? That it wasn't true, I said. That he was wrong about you. She took a slow sip, eyes still on the glass. He wasn't wrong about everything. I felt the words hit me somewhere deep. So I'm just another one. Another mistake you'll regret later. She flinched. Don't do that. Don't make this uglier than it already is. Then what is it, Claire? I pushed. You said you didn't mean for it to happen. But it did. And I stopped, voice breaking. I can't keep pretending I don't care. That made her turn. Her face was wet, from tears or rain, I couldn't tell. You think caring is enough, she said quietly. You think love fixes anything. It doesn't, Eli. It just exposes what's already broken. Then let it, I said. Let it break. At least it'll be honest. She shook her head, half angry, half desperate. You don't understand what this costs me. Then tell me. Her voice came out as a whisper, trembling but sharp. Because I'm not supposed to need someone your age. I'm not supposed to look at you and feel. She stopped herself, shaking her head. It's pathetic. It's human, I said. She looked up then, really looked, like she was seeing me for the first time without fighting it. Her walls cracked in that moment, just enough for the truth to show through. "I wanted to feel alive again," she said. "You did that. But I can't ask you to carry the weight of what that means." I stepped closer. "You don't get to decide that for me." Her breath hitched as I reached for her hand, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Her fingers tightened around mine like something she'd been holding back for too long finally gave in. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The air between us buzzed, grief, want, fear, all tangled into something that didn't need explaining. Then she whispered, "If we cross this line, Eli, it doesn't go back." "I don't want it to," I said. Her eyes flickered, pain, disbelief, longing. All at once. She leaned in just enough that I could feel the warmth of her breath against my skin. "Don't make me choose," she said. "You already did." A flash of thunder split the sky, lighting up her face, tired, tear-streaked, but alive. She closed her eyes, hands still gripping mine, and exhaled like surrender. Then, suddenly, she let go. "I love you," she said, not a confession, not a promise, just truth. Before I could respond, she stepped back, voice steady now. "But loving you means letting you go before I ruin you too." She turned toward the door. Stopped. Looked over her shoulder one last time. "Thank you," she said softly. "For seeing me." And then she was gone, leaving the scent of rain and regret behind, and a silence that somehow felt like love refusing to die quietly. That I didn't see Claire again for weeks after that night. Her house stayed quiet, blinds drawn, mailbox empty, porch light off. Sometimes I'd catch myself staring at her window, half expecting to see her silhouette, coffee mug in hand, pretending she wasn't waiting too. But she never appeared. The rent was still due, technically. But she never came to collect. Life started moving again, the way it always does when something inside you refuses to stop hurting. I picked up more shifts at the auto shop, came home tired, cooked simple meals. On weekends, I'd fix things that didn't need fixing, her old fence, the gutter, the screen door that never closed right. It made me feel like I still had a reason to stay. One afternoon, a letter slid under my door. No return address. Just my name, Eli. Her handwriting. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. "You were right, caring means something. Maybe everything." But I had to step away before I turned it into something it wasn't meant to be. "I thought I was saving you from me. Maybe I was saving both of us. I'm moving to Mendocino. The ocean helps me breathe again. Don't come looking for me. But don't forget me either. See." I read it 3 times. Each time it felt like something different, a goodbye, a confession, a soft kind of forgiveness. For a while, I hated her for it, for ending things so gently it still hurt to breathe. But then, as days turned into months, I started to understand. She'd given me something without realizing it, a mirror. She made me see the parts of myself I'd been running from, the boy who always waited to be rescued, the man who thought love only counted when it hurt. And maybe, in her own way, she'd seen herself in me too, the woman who'd built a life around fixing others but never let anyone stay long enough to fix her. By the end of summer, the house had a new tenant. An older couple. I helped them move in, just to feel the space one more time. The garden was overgrown, but a few lilies still bloomed near the fence. She must have planted them before she left. That night, I sat on the porch steps, listening to the wind shift through the trees. I thought about the last thing she said, "Thank you for seeing me." The truth is, I still do. Sometimes, when it rains, I imagine her by the ocean, hands in her pockets, hair tangled by salt and wind, eyes closed. Maybe she's thinking of me too. Or maybe she's finally learned how to stop looking back. Either way, I'm grateful. Because for a little while, we found each other in the middle of our wreckage, and that has to count for something. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? More slow burn romances, forbidden love, or something completely different?